Good morning and welcome to the bumper edition of the Breakfast Cafe. Thank God it's Friday. I am so delighted to be here. My name is Olumide Shokoy. Of course, I'm not the only one doing this. I have the beautiful, ever-popping, melanin popping Sarah wants to answer.
It's the ever-popping, melanin popping for me. Good morning, Olumide, Yoruba Angel. I'm very well, thank you. Good morning. Welcome to the program. I am Sarah Owusu-Ansah. Like Olumide rightly said, it's Friday, and guess what? It's a new month, so allow us tell you happy new month. Welcome to the month of November. You know, the year, we can actually say the year has come to an end already.
Yes, that's
This is the 11th month already, and it's the first day. A lot of people have so many expectations.
Yes.
We all have our fingers crossed. We're all hopeful about the blessings. No, away from Christmas, the blessings that this month would bring. Christmas, yes, but if you're not in a sane mind, if you do not even have money, you wouldn't feel that festive period. So above all, we all really pray and hope that the month brings a lot of blessings to us, and you know, we shine bright and bright.
You know, I think it's at the beginning of September you will know whether December is going to be sweet or not.
I beg to disagree because I believe in miracles. Anything could happen. It could be at the end of November. It could be at the beginning of December, and then you just see that something miraculous just happens, and you have a fantastic festive period. So don't feel dampened if you're following Olumide's principle that by September, that's when you know. Don't feel discouraged. You still need to understand that there's still time, and you are going to celebrate your festive period with your family, with so much glee, happiness, joy, love, and money. Yes.
What she said. So we'll go on a break, and when we come back, we start off with banters. Stay tuned. Welcome back. So on Banters today, the topic for today is childhood fears. Now, fears are anxieties or phobias that children experience, you know, often stemming from their limited understanding of the world. Now, these fears can be irrational or based on real-life experiences, but typically diminish as children grow older and gain more experience and knowledge. Now, Sarah, if I might ask you, do you have any childhood fear?
I'm trying to think about it, but none comes to my head. I wasn't scared of teddy bears. I wasn't scared of maybe I was a little scared of the dark because I used to watch movies with my siblings and my mom, and you know, we saw a lot of, they were watching horror movies and all of that, and I wasn't supposed to watch it, but I would still find myself there. So at a point it made me get scared of the dark, but it didn't last. Because I started to understand that it's nothing. But one thing that I'll say really got to me, maybe, I don't know if this is part of it, but I'll say blood. Yeah, one of my childhood fear was blood. I was always scared of seeing blood, injury, cuts, anything at all. It used to make me cringe.
Well, I can't really think of any childhood fear I had back then, but maybe as time goes by, I will remember. Now, so let's start. Now, monsters under the bed, yes.
Those are some common childhood
Those are classic, you know, childhood fears. Now, a classic fear often fueled by imagination, rather, and stories. Darkness, fear of the dark is common. You know, it's linked to the unknown and potential threat. Separation anxiety, yes, children have this also. Fear of being away from their parents or caregivers, especially in new environments. Strangers, a natural caution about unfamiliar people, rooted in a survival instinct. Animals, certain animals like dogs, insects can trigger fear, often due to a negative past experience or parental influence. Thunderstorm, loud noises and flashes of light can be frightening for children, you know, and all that.
I didn't like dogs.
Dogs?
Yeah, I didn't like dogs.
I love dogs.
I didn't like dogs. I had a very bad experience with a dog one time, and till today, if I'm taking a walk or going somewhere and I see a dog, I'll make sure I, you know, pave the way for you, go on your own. But did you go to a boarding school?
No.
Okay, I know there was this myth. I never went to boarding school, but there was this myth about Madame Koi Koi that used to frighten students, children, and it went on for a very long time. Say one of our shoes is missing, they're just hearing footsteps. I never went to boarding school, so I can't say okay, but I had friends that were in boarding schools, and they were always told that story, and some of them started to believe it. They were scared of Madame Koi Koi.
Even bush babies, I've heard stories about that too.
Yeah, and then there's this myth around that too, that if you collect the cane and the mat of a bush baby and you can keep it for, is it 7 days? You're going to get very wealthy. Yeah. Because they say they go about with a mat and a cane and they're always crying and all of that. I've never experienced it, so I don't know.
All right, so let's continue now. From where we stopped, there are so many things that children often fear but as older as they get, they begin to, you know, maybe out of more knowledge, out of their parents telling them that this and this and this is actually not true. And some myths actually form fears in children. I mean, growing up, we were told that, you know, if you wash at night, this and that. I mean, we were told all kinds of stories.
If you whistle at night, a snake would appear and come and greet you. Or there are a lot of them. I'm coming. Why have they all run away from my head right now? There were a lot of myths they told us when we were growing up. I'm sure I'll remember them before the show, before the segment ends. But there were a whole lot of them, and you are right. Myths can actually build up fear. If you pick anything from the floor, you will turn to a snake, or a dog or something. There were a lot of them like that. If you don't throw, one of the ones I was told was, if you don't throw your tooth on the roof when it removes, you might not grow it back or something. So a lot of things like that.
All right, now imagination. Children often have vivid imaginations which can lead to irrational fears. Now we have developmental stages. Fears can be age-related, changing as children grow and develop, just like I said earlier on. Environmental influence, exposure to scary media or parental fears can shape a child's fears. E.g., if you watch certain movies, horror movies, you know, and all that. Lack of understanding. Now, limited knowledge about the world can actually, you know, make benign situations seem threatening.
This is very true.
Very, very
You know,
true.
talking about developmental stages, I know that I've gone through that stage. Every one of us has gone through that stage, and I've had to have conversations with teenagers. When they are getting to that puberty stage, there's always some sort of fear. For women, they say you have become a woman when they first experience their first menstrual cycle. For men, there's this thing they used to gauge it, you know. And sometimes over the years, but now it's changing, our parents have instilled some sort of fear in us. Particularly, I can't speak for men so much, but for women, there's this fear, oh, you play with a boy, you do this, you do that, you get pregnant. And you don't give a proper knowledge and orientation. So you see a lot of teenagers these days, if you go to schools to have conversations, they are scared. They don't actually understand. They feel like something is wrong with their body. So there's this anxiety that comes with it. But until you start to break it down to them and make them understand that, okay, you're just in a phase, you're growing, it's a developmental phase. It comes with its own fear. It comes with its own timidity. It comes with its own low self-esteem problems. Because sometimes you have breakouts, you have mood swings. You just don't want to do anything, and you feel like something is wrong with me.
I remember when I was growing up, when I started having pimples, I was so worried. And then I was told that way because you are eating too much oil, this and that. I tried so many things, but the pimples kept coming out.
Eating anything that has nuts.
And, you know, until someone told me it's actually part of puberty. So I was like, oh. You know. Now, let's look at coping mechanisms. Now, we have reassurance. Comforting children and validating their feelings can help alleviate fears. Gradual exposure, introducing children to their fears in a controlled, supportive way can help them overcome them. I know some children sometimes get scared of Santa Claus. I know that. Now, storytelling, sharing funny or relative stories about fears can normalize the experience and encourage laughter. Positive reinforcement. Celebrating small victories when children confront their fears can boost their confidence and irrational childhood fears.
Very, very true.
Now, we also have fear of food. Now, some children develop squeaky fears about specific food. e.g. broccoli, because it looks alien. I remember I had certain fears for different kind of food, especially this locust beans. I didn't like it. Actually, basically, I didn't like anything that didn't smell nice.
Was it fear, or you just didn't like it because of the smell?
The
there are two different things. It's not
then
okay.
We had a neighbor who was always cooking this local food with that scent. I never liked it. Basically, anything that does not smell nice to me.
Growing up, I had a fear of food, and it was what they call, I can't remember the name in English, but in Yoruba it's called gbegiri.
Gbegiri, I love gbegiri.
I had a fear because it looked nauseating to me. You know, it used to give me one kind. I don't want to say it because it's very.
And the color.
It was passing a very wrong signal to me, so I used to dread it. Don't even take it and come close to me.
Really?
Yes, I didn't like it.
With ewedu?
But funny enough, now I take it because
yes.
I've outgrown that fear.
All right, we have fear of clowns. Some children actually have fear for clowns. Often rooted in their exaggerated features and behaviors, clowns can be both amusing and quite frightening. Now, fear of costumes. Children may find certain costumes like Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny terrifying due to their unfamiliarity. Let's take this last one. Fear of bathroom noises. Some kids might fear sounds associated with toilets or flush. I remember when I was young. Yes, and I remember when I used to be alone, I used to hear funny sounds when I was very young. So I was always scared of being alone. Maybe a bird was just tweeting, something actually. It wasn't really much, but I was always believing that spirits were in the house.
All right, you want to give us a conclusion?
Yes. Now, so in conclusion, fears while often amusing or irrational, are a natural part of development. They can provide insight to a child's imagination and emotional growth. Now, understanding and addressing these fears with humor can help children navigate their feelings and develop resilience. And I think that's all we can take for now on Banters. In a moment, we will come back with the newspaper review, so please stay tuned.
Welcome back. Now, this segment is what we call the newspaper review. What do we do here? We take a look at stories making the rounds on the national dailies like The Punch, The Guardian, The Vanguard, as well as the Daily Trust. And we also have a conversation with a guest. We open the phone lines and have you call in, share your thoughts on any of the headlines. You know, one of the most interesting headlines for me this morning that I saw yesterday is what is happening in Rivers State. And I think I sent it to you.
Yes, you sent it to me.
Where Fubara has taken a very bold and daring move. You know, allocations were stopped. They ordered allocations to be stopped in Rivers State, and Fubara also came out to stop oil production. I'm trying to get out the story.
You know, the funniest thing is, this was a conversation I was having, I think, with someone, I think 2 days before. And he was even saying, he suggested that this is what Fubara should actually do. He should shut down these pipelines, shut down all these oil companies. Then that is when they will actually take him serious. And when I saw the report yesterday, I wasn't quite shocked.
So you think that move is a move in the right direction?
Well, morally it is not. But all is fair in love and war.
Apparently, Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has shut down NNPC and all oil companies in Rivers State and declares that no allocation for Rivers State, no oil for Nigeria. Now, in the bold move, the governor ordered the shutdown, declaring that without the federal allocation, there will be no oil for Nigeria. It is important to note that within minutes of the shutdown, Nigeria dropped in the global ranking from the 4th to the 24th position. So we can see that that has a very huge effect.
Yes.
So I think Fubara has dragged those that are concerned in a very hard way, and there's no way they will not pay attention to what is happening in Rivers State. But now I hope that this doesn't linger and
escalate.
Yeah, and become something very, you know, good. I just had to state that while we get into the pod. But don't forget, like I said, you can be a part of the conversation. 0812-182-0154 is the number to call. Do well, let us know your thoughts. Now, let's kick off with the Vanguard newspaper. I had to laugh at the headline I saw. The first headline that greeted me is just a very funny headline. And it says, "There's hunger in the land, governors admit, back Tinubu." It's quite contradictory though. You admit that there's hunger in the land and you back the president. A couple of writers to that story. "Relief should come for the people." Uzodinma adds that we must encourage Dangote refinery. Quotes NNPCL's Kyari as saying there's total subsidy removal, plans to alleviate poverty. Details page 5. We'll get into it when our guest joins us. We see a pictorial representation at the National Economic Council meeting. We can see the Vice President in person of Kashim Shettima. We see the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, and a couple of others. Can get a copy of the Vanguard newspaper. You have it there. Withdraw tax reform bill from National Assembly. NEC tells President Tinubu. I really want to get into details when our guest joins us because that's his field of expertise. Want to understand the whole idea behind this, and if this tax reform bill is withdrawn from National Assembly, what does it mean for us exactly? We need to also put that into perspective. Beneath that story, blackout, Tinubu not discriminating against the North. I heard that power has been restored in some of the states. You know, it's been over 9 days. Well, we have this headline there. Details on page 9. Withheld salaries, varsities, non-academic staff strike continues despite federal government's plea. As at Wednesday, the update was that federal government had not said anything yet. But now we're seeing that they are still on strike despite federal government's plea. Would the plea actually make them pay? Would the plea produce their salaries?
Exactly. That's the biggest question.
Would the plea make things better? So they listen to the plea. After listening to the plea, federal government says, "Oh, okay, we are begging, go back," and they go back, and then they are still facing the same thing. It's not about pleading. Why is that word stressing me out? It's not about pleading. It's actually about doing the needful and just nipping this whole thing in the bud. But we have that story on page 8. Moving on, we have not received any payment for petrol from Ipman. That's coming from Dangote Refinery. Federal government orders return of all forex into banks within 9 months. That's on page 19. And lastly, allocation. Rivers NLC threatens to withdraw services if you want to read up that story on page 7. Okay, I think we have a sports story here on page 30. Chelsea still want Osimhen. Victor Osimhen is a very hot kick, you know. But that's said on the Vanguard newspaper this morning.
All right, let's move on to the Punch newspaper this morning. The bold headline says, tax review, presidency mounts defense as 36 governors reject proposal. Now, one writer to that story, the National Economic Council asked president to withdraw bill from National Assembly. Tinubu panel says bill not against governors. So we have 36 governors, all the governors of the state rejecting that bill. I think earlier it was the northern, 19 northern state governors actually rejected that bill. But I mean, now we're getting update that the 36 governors have rejected that bill. Now, right beside the masthead, we have two stories. It says INEC records 72% PVC collection. Now, below that, we have APC, PDP differ over Ayedatiwa's scorecard. That's on page 28. Well, we'll know whether the scorecard is when the election is over. Now, above that, we have Ipman can't lift petrol without NNPCL's approval. Now, this is coming from Dangote. So we have two stories, two reports now. Dangote is saying they've not received payment from Ipman. Now, Ipman is saying they can't lift petrol without NNPCL's approval. So which story should we go with? Who is telling the truth and who is not?
The trouble in this whole oil and petroleum conversation for a couple of months now has been very disturbing. And
we are still moving to CNG very soon, but hopefully we will get that sorted out. Now, beside that, we have 12 federal government MDA salaries to be delayed. I'll take that again. 12 federal government MDA salaries to be delayed. You can find more of that on page 19 of the Punch newspaper. Federal government offers 9-month window for free forex deposit. That's on page 19 of the Punch newspaper. Now, below that, we have federal government striking varsity workers talk ends in a deadlock. I'll take that again. Federal government striking varsity workers talks end in a deadlock. So the strike still continues. You can get more of that story on page 28. Flooding. National Economic Council plans new dams for Southeast and South-South.
Very good.
Very good, and I hope they see that through. That's on page 28. We have this one is quite disturbing. It says crashed helicopter wreckage found. 3 passengers remain missing. That's on page 28 of the Punch newspaper. And the last one says Spain flood deaths rise to 150, hundreds displaced. That's on page 14. We seem to be having this flood issue across borders. But I think that's all we have right now coming from the Punch newspaper.
Right, just before we go into the Guardian newspaper, yesterday the president appointed Major General Olufemi Olatunbosun Oluyede as the acting chief of Army Staff. And you know, that particular appointment raised eyebrows. People started asking questions. Recall that not too long ago, there was a press release from the defense headquarters where they said the Major General Taoreed Lagbaja was on annual leave. Now, there were rumors that that was not the case.
Death rumors.
There were rumors that that was not the case. However, they came out to say he's hale and healthy, he's on an annual leave. But now they're asking a question. Do you appoint someone as acting if the original person in that position has not retired, resigned, or something has happened? How do you appoint someone else to take that position if nothing?
Well, there's another report saying he was undergoing treatment, medical treatment. He was away and undergoing medical treatment. So maybe that's it. So Oluyede is standing as acting pending the time he's fully recovered.
Okay.
That's how they want to put it to us. That's how we
Let's
take it.
know your thought on this. Do want to call into the show. 0812-182-0154. Let's quickly take a look at the Guardian newspaper. This morning, on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, from third world to superpower, how to lift millions from poverty to prosperity via local initiatives. We see this is India, and we see some economic reforms that changed India. We also see our president. So our president probably wants to, you know, take some lessons from some economic reforms that changed India and see if we can apply it. You know,
on a lighter note, I'm sure you saw that report about Ekiti lawmakers going to Canada.
Yes, for vacation. Abi, what did
they call it? A retreat and a training forum.
Yes, they are going to Canada. I think about 27 of them.
Yes, on taxpayers' money.
I saw it and I just giggled. But you want to read these big stories on page 4 and 5, the Guardian newspaper, I beg your pardon. Beneath that story, proscription, appeal court reserves judgment on IPOB's appeal. We see Nnamdi Kanu there. Page 28 has the details. Forex crisis, federal government gives Nigerians 9 months to deposit dollars in banks. Panorama page 2 has the full read. National Assembly adjourns plenary abruptly as NEC advises immediate withdrawal. That's in regards to the tax reform bills. Details page 6. EFCC uncovers 248 billion naira, $105 million in 1 year. There's been a lot of uncovering in this current administration led by Olukoyede for the EFCC. Page 7 has the details. Rivers State, NLC threatens shutdown as Wabara PDP coalition warn of crisis escalation. It is already escalating with this big and bold move taken by the governor. It has escalated. Page 6 details. Beside that story, our relationship must be win-win. Tinubu tells France, China, and Denmark. Page 3 has the detail. How we improved land administration in Edo State by Obaseki. You want to know how we did that? Page 28, Guardian newspaper. And lastly, this morning, government and media are partners in nation building, says Information Minister. That's only when the media is given the freedom to carry out their job without fear, without looking over their shoulders that, am I going to be safe to actually do this freely? When that happens, we can say, okay, there needs to be some sort of partnership. But that wraps it up on the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning.
All right, moving on to the final newspaper. This is the Daily Trust newspaper. The bold caption says here, the bold headline says, Presidency to withdraw controversial tax reform bills. Two writers to that story. And National Economic Council demands more consultation. Proposed legislations not against the North. This is coming from Ononuga, Bayo Ononuga himself. That's on page 4. You can get more of that story on page 4. Now, just above that, flood kills 321 in 34 states, affect 1.4 million people. 1.4 million people have been affected by this ongoing flood. Now, beside that, we have top bank executives. All right, we have Michael. Michael is our regular caller from Abuja. Good morning, Michael. So glad to have you on the show.
Good morning, Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for calling.
Happy New Month.
Happy New Month. It's a blessed one for us all.
I just want to ask you this headline that the EFCC recovered how many billion in 1 year. The first of that is, where is this money channeled to? Is this money with federal government or with EFCC? And the money being used for any project, can Nigeria get account of what this money, and if it has been used, what it has been used for? Or it's just like the subsidy money that we cannot even give account of where it's going. Because it's a good thing to hear this money on paper. What is the end use of this money at the end? Where is this money going to? Is it still with the EFCC or is it with federal government? If it's with any of them, what is the plan of what are they going to use this money for? Next thing is, not like Abacha when we hear that every time Nigeria lacks money, Abacha roots, like just like ritual money, they will commit money from nowhere. 4 billion has been recovered. But where is it going to? Which project is it channeled into? Because if you recover this money, we are not seeing what is being used for. It's still the same as it's still in the hand of those people holding it. There's no need of tracking those people recovering this money, and we don't know where the money is going at the end of the day.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's a very big question. You know, just like the subsidy, I know that in the first month, is it the first month? Yeah, shortly after the subsidy was removed, they said they saved about 1 trillion naira from the subsidy removal and all of that. So where exactly, what areas are this money is being channeled into? What is it being used for? In whose coffers is this money kept? These are questions. So if, just like he said, we need to, there needs to be some sort of accountability. So we've recovered these monies, but they are in the custody of the EFCC, or we are trying to do this, or it has been remitted to the federal government, or what have you. Very important.
Well, from the little knowledge, depending on where the money is being recovered from or where it's been stolen from, certain monies are returned back to states. I remember there was one instance state that money was returned back to. But in the case of Abacha loot, I do not have any answers to that.
Right. We would have gone on a break, but it's interesting to note that our guest is already on the line in person of Sheson Okwade. He is a sound economic expert and analyst. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Sheson Okwade.
Yeah, good morning, Sarah. Good morning, Olumide.
Good
Let me
morning.
first say Happy New Month to
Happy
both
New
of you.
Month.
Gorgeously dressed.
Thank
It
you.
shows how November is going to be. That is in preparation for the Yuletide.
Yeah.
And to all our listeners across the globe, a beautiful Friday morning. Coincidentally, it's a Friday with a new month. That's to say that the weekend is going to be splendid.
It's going to
And
be
the blessings
sweet.
of definitely rest on us.
Right. Thank you so much for that, Sheso Kwade. You know, there's one major headline that has been trending on all the papers, and it's just fantastic to know that that is your field of expertise, talking about the tax reform bills. Now, at the NEC meeting, which was held and chaired by the Vice President Kashim Shettima, there has been conversations as about 19 governors have asked that the tax reform bill be taken away. They have rejected the Nigeria tax reform bill. Now, some of the reasons were they said they were against the interest of the North and other subnationals, and also the proposed amendment to the distribution of the value-added tax. Remember that the president was not even in the country, was in London when he, sent a letter about this bill on the 3rd of September, transmitting 4 tax bills to the National Assembly for consideration. But now we have this. Let's do it this way. First off, let us understand this tax reform bill, what exactly it means. If it's coming on board, what advantage does it have for us as a country? And now that it has been rejected, what does this actually mean as well?
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. I'm sure you are aware that the president set up the Presidential Task Force, Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy, headed by Taiwo Oyedele, who has been an advocate of equity when it comes to the issue of tax distribution. And when you look at some of the ideas, I'm sure it's 1 or 2 that these governors are actually against. And we all understand the reasons why this is actually going. I would say that some of the things being highlighted in the tax reform is the consolidation of all arms of all these agencies collecting tax, so that we can have revenue, like a revenue arm. So there won't be FRS, like a joint revenue board, states, so we can consolidate the collection of all taxes in the hands of just one, and be able to distribute, in the percentage that has been agreed, in the Tax Act. And that will reduce the burden of the taxpayers, because as we speak, what they met was over 100 different taxes, both at the federal, subnational, and the local government. And they're looking for a way of annexing it in such a way that we can have a central way of collecting this, and an average business person can have understanding of what is due at a particular time, and the sharing can be within themselves. You see, the issue here is simple, if you ask me from my personal view. The government do not even trust themselves, and that's why some of these things are coming up. The states agitating that it's against them. It's because VAT is now going to be meant on the aspect of derivative. So what we derive from your area, and since you are consolidating to a particular, to a central way of collection, technology will definitely be used in such a way that you'll be able to trace what is each state generating.
Okay.
So it's whatever we derived from your state that will be able to share. So it's not the blanket check of saying this goes to this particular, this across board goes to all those states. And you and I understand what it looks like. It's like a performance index. If you don't perform in your state, or you don't create an enabling environment for business to grow, definitely you have more backwardness for that state, because you will not get the large chunk of revenue or the allocation that they are getting from the states. I, as a person, is a supporter of this, because if you look at several states, the only thing they all rely on is the revenue from the federal government, the allocation from them. What's the creativity that you have? Even when some of these allocations are shared to them, you can see the backwardness that a lot of states are actually, some of them are still struggling to even pay salary. And you hear a lot of billions of naira being actually moved to them. So this is actually expected, but I have to say that it is not against any section of the country, but it's just a fair way of actually increasing productivity of each state. So when I get funds, I should be able to use it to develop my state and be able to attract investors, attract businesses. You know, this area of banditry that we are talking about. So if I develop my state and I put up a good security mechanism from the funds I'm able to raise or collect from the federal government, it generates more revenue for me. And that on its own will neutralize this aspect of saying any little thing you run to the federal government. Because when these tax come on board or this reform is being passed, we are going to pursue again, you know, the regionalization that the federal government is actually working through to make sure that each region go back to develop their area the way that is supposed to be. We should reduce the pressure that we've given on some states like Lagos in the southwest and develop more other states in the southwest in such a way that you can reduce the pressure. Everybody wants to come to Lagos. Everybody wants to go to Kano. Everybody wants to go to Port Harcourt because there are developments based on some of the things that the governors there have actually done. Why are we not having you see, the 36 states has something to ride on to develop in their states. Natural resources are there. How much of it are we tapping into for the growth of that state? It has been in the hands of few. So let it continue to be in the hands of the few while you impoverish your state, while some people consider that that same particular natural resources being given to them is maximized for the development of all. I'm not saying that all of them are actually clean, but we have some states that actually consider the development of the state vis-a-vis those that are actually buying fleets of cars, buying houses, and not considering. It is when you develop your state and make it more, you know, accommodating for businesses to grow, that is when you generate more. Enough of this blanket check of everybody just waiting at the end of the month to just see how they can share the money that is being given to them.
Right.
All right, thank you very much, Sheson Okwade. If you look at the motives behind these 36 governors who have rejected this bill, there are so many unanswered questions. Are they deliberately just trying to avoid certain things so that, you know, they continue to enjoy these largesse, they benefit from federal allocation, or are they also fighting for the state and the people? And secondly, what would this do for the economy if this tax reform bill is being withdrawn? Will it help the economy or will it mar the economy?
Bearing in mind, just to add, bearing in mind that the World Bank had said we need to go with President Tinubu's policies, we need to toe that direction. So isn't this some sort of altercation?
I can't answer for the state governors. The reason for their rejection, they best know, and their spokesperson will definitely come out in it, you know, to actually lay rule why they are actually rejecting this. But a lot of us feel that even the state has not helped us. I heard Sarah speaking to the fact that when this administration came in, so much revenue was gotten from subsidy, so much was actually given to the states. And I can tell you, a lot of states enjoy that largesse, but are still struggling to even pay the 30,000, not to even talk of the increased minimum wage. So what happened to those funds? And this will take us to what is actually the anti-graft agency doing to monitor some of the funds that are actually being used in terms of project development, infrastructural growth in some of these states. A lot of them just collect the money and convert it to foreign exchange, put pressure on our forex, and we are out there, you know, complaining that it's not enough. A lot of states utilize this for their own development, and we come about to blame and they put more pressure on them. If the few things we are enjoying in the states where we all reside now, where everybody travels to day by day, are not provided by certain government, will we be enjoying it today? The answer is no. So on the aspect of whether this will actually, the impact on the economy, let me first tell you, maybe as a finance person, the way I reason, I'm sure you know that think tank, the committee was actually set up, and there are funds allocated for those committees to actually carry out their work. When they put all these things in place, and all we could do is to reject all the works they have done, is that not a waste? When you know that you are not going to accept some of the facts that they are, because they are asked things to actually absorb. I'm not going to relate it to what World Bank is saying, because World Bank most of the time does not actually give policies that we assist even the common man. But we are just talking objectively based on the fact that at least tax is an area where I major and I play a significant role. So it's for a balancing act on the part of everyone. So when you reject the bill, all you have done is that all the ideas being put together, and that's part of what we are faced with. Today we say constitution amendment. People will come, bring up suggestions, you know, put up a white paper, suggest to the government, and some people at some quarter who consider that that thing will not be favorable to them, we just turn it down and we go back to status quo. So I think it's high time we look through some of the ideas being suggested. You can't be doing the same thing the same way and expect a different result. Why can't we even have a test run of a different shift of what we have been doing before and consider the result? And if it doesn't work the way we actually want, in the next 6 months, we go back to status quo to actually say that this has not worked in favor of the common man. Because my concern is always about the common citizen and not the few elites that are actually at the corridor of power. And I think that is what the reform, you've seen some of the things that they've been able, it's still the same committee that came up to remove VAT on diesel, you know, when it was actually proposed. They are actually the one working on centralizing the tax collection and putting technology in the area of collection. You and I can see the level at which FIRS is being able to streamline the activity. The ease of payment with the use of their ProMax has actually assisted a lot of businesses, and they are still building on it. So why can't we just change the mentality of doing it the same way and expecting a different result, apply a different approach to that which we are doing and expect that will come out of it? If we reject this outrightly, it speaks to the fact that we will be going backward, and a lot of things, you know, ideas that people have put together, these are technocrats. And what baffles me is that there is representation of all the states in this committee. And not just the state. Don't forget the private sector is involved in the committee that was actually set up. So it's not only about the state, it's about the private sector that even gives you the revenue that we're actually talking about. So if they have come up with ideas, so why is the state government, you know, who feels, and who a lot of us have actually considered that enough of this idea of having free funds to some of the governors. You and I know what we faced during palliative. So much was actually contributed by the private sector to support the state, but we saw what they actually make use of it. So let's have a way of centrally collecting these funds and distributing it based on what you have contributed to the table. I'm sure Sarah and Olumide, it will be unfair of you in your organization if you put in a lot and the management decide to use the blanket check to say whether you come to work or you contribute to the bottom line of the growth of the economy, all of you are going to be treated the same way, which we have been enjoying. That will be a demotivating factor to those that are actually creative and innovative in the things that they are doing. But if you are actually being compensated for the creativity that you are bringing up in the organization, I'm sure you will want to do more. That's why someone like me is supporting the aspect of saying, let's approach this issue of distribution of VAT based on derivative and using technology to actually show the transparency and accountability in the area of collection of those taxes.
All right, very sound one there, I must say. But let's take a swipe from tax reform bill to Rivers State. Now, I would like to also put this out there. Earlier, when we started the show, this segment, we talked about an update that the Rivers State governor stopped NNPC and oil companies. However, it has been brought to our notice that he has denied it, and he has said it is fake news, and he did not do anything of such rather. So we need to put that out there. But what I want to ask is still in regards to Rivers State. Now, on Wednesday in Rivers State, the Federal High Court in Abuja decreed the stoppage of funds to the state. They restrained the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Accountant General of the Federation from releasing funds to the state until pending when a lawful appropriation act is passed by a validly constituted House of Assembly. And in fact, the court also barred banks from allowing the government of Rivers and the governor, Siminalayi Fubara, to withdraw money from the state's account. And you ask yourself, with this particular move, we know that raising and spending of money for development is the chief function of the government. So you ask yourself, how would Rivers State's government begin to perform its duties and meet its wide-ranging financial obligations in view of this judgment of the Federal High Court? Is this towing the right direction?
I must start by saying these are part of the challenges you are faced with when individual interest prevail over the interest of the common man you claim you are leading. And you can see the forth and back. I keep asking myself, is there governance going on in River States based on the shenanigans going on? I feel for businesses. River State used to be one of the states you can point at. You know, when you are mentioning states where there is development, where people flourish. When you mention Lagos, you mention Port Harcourt, you mention Abuja, and you know Port Harcourt is in Rivers. Well, it seems to be a shadow of itself with some of the things that are actually happening. You see, based on the question you have asked, I think what the judge is trying to establish is, can you go back to one another, have a common ground between all that is happening? It's a legit thing to say, can we have a formidable House of Assembly that will legislate on some of the things so that it won't be a fiat, that it's only the governor that is actually taking the decision. We need a position to actually come and confirm by the law if the current House of Assembly is actually empowered to carry on some of the things. You see, my problem is most of the time the laws tend to be misinterpreted in favor of the party that is actually soliciting for that particular thing. And that's the way of the lawyers, is the way you are able to interpret the law to your favor, that it works in your favor, which is always an issue to me, if you ask. So I feel that the governor needs to come to terms, with everything that is going on. When two elephant vice, the people that suffer with all this that has actually happened, the average citizen of Rivers State will not enjoy that development. The first 2 years has been turbulent. Can we have grants being shipped, follow the law? Because with this now, I'm sure all concerned people will actually work in line with that of the court injunction, and they will not actually yield a grant, because the Accountant General of the Federation, the banks trust them. It's the last word that they want to have, because they are strict with documentation. So we should look for way. I know this will be contested, but we should continue to look for a way at which we can both, agree on whatever differences and putting the interest of the common man at heart. And we can't continue with this and expect development to happen. Otherwise, what we'll continue to see is 10 years backward. And it's about individual interest. All the stakeholders, the stake actors in this game should remember that definitely will have posterity judge you of the contribution you have made in the growth of that particular state to the development of the citizen. I think that's the route to, because the law keeps coming up. And you know, I'm not a lawyer. These are part of the reason why I ran away from law to go in the area of figure, because most of the time the judges are always confusing. When you just hear the pronouncement, you ask, does this make logical sense? And they will tell you that is the law and that's the position. And they will always have a backing for it. So who are we to actually question the decision of the judge when he has a fact presented before him or her to actually make his declaration? But I feel that the state actor needs to just come to terms and see how they can have a common ground for the development of the people that they claim they are late, and then we can move forward as a state. Right.
That's a very fantastic, you know, analysis there. But just before we go in about 2 minutes, let's talk about Dangote, NNPC, federal government, independent marketers. There's been a lot of back and forth. We saw about 3 days ago, the president was in a meeting with Dangote. He was in a meeting with Mele Kyari. He was also in a meeting with Wale Edun. And all of this conversation is in regards to the petrol situation. And this morning on The Punch, we have this that says Ipman can't lift petrol without NNPCL approval. That's coming from Dangote Refinery. And Dangote is also saying he has not received any funds from Ipman. What's happening in this sector? How can we resolve this and come to a common term, have a common ground that can benefit the people? If you can answer that in less than 2 minutes, I'll be grateful.
I will try my best, but Sarah, let me use the street language. If you ask me now, I'll go ask. The issue that is happening in the oil and gas sector is actually beyond what anybody can interpret or even show understanding about. The last one that is coming out now, that the independent marketers cannot lift without the approval. I asked myself the question. I think there was a letter or a memo from NNPC saying that they've given, you know, the independent marketer the freedom to do seller-buyer, you know, agreement between the independent marketer. And so why are we coming up again with this bottleneck of saying that, is it that Dangote didn't get that particular memo? Because he came out 3 days ago to make the country understand that we have enough petroleum products that can even take us for 12 days, of which, if that is being evacuated, more can be put in the tank farm for us to see, to actually utilize. You see, until we come with enough transparency in this sector, we may go nowhere. There are a lot of state actors for their personal gain that is not even considering. I keep asking myself, what will become the fuel price by next week? You know, it seems to be like a 2 weeks thing now for us.
We can just see anything come up, right? Very true. You know,
without
very
any prior information.
Right.
So we need a situation where we can have a collective agreement between all the state actors to make sure that businesses survive. Now, businesses cannot plan effectively how to carry out their thing, because as at last week, we had it at 9.98. Today, we are having it at 10.25. And you all understand how geotypes put pressure on petroleum products. What will be our fate by the end of the year, knowing fully well that the increase in that particular product cut across every facet of our economy. So government just need to be intentional about this so that we can have a more relaxed economy to operate with.
Talking about intentionality, that's a fantastic way to learn. But let's quickly take this call. Let's quickly take Michael again. Let's see if Michael probably wants to ask you a question. Michael, please share your thoughts in 30 seconds.
Yes. I want to ask a question.
30 seconds, please.
If Dangote said that if one cannot get product from the refinery without the approval of NNPCL, and we heard that he said he has sold fuel to a neighboring country like Ghana and all of that. If you want to sell to a neighboring country, who approve of that? Is it NNPCL also that will approve for that to sell to a neighboring country like Ghana and all of that? If he cannot sell to Hitman directly.
Right. Thank you, Michael. Sheson Kwade, I don't know if you got Michael's question, if you can respond.
Yeah, I got
very
Michael's
quickly.
question. I think they don't have control over the external. For Ipman happens to be a sub of NNPCL, and that's why it seems to be having a prevailing instruction on them. But what is baffling to me is that we all saw the memo saying that NNPCL has, it was a big task then that they were saying it's only NNPC that can lead. And we saw the memo to say that that has actually been aborted, and every individual who has interest and have that license can go ahead and buy, from Dangote. But this that is happening again is what I hope it is not the media that is misinterpreting the statement. That's always what we always see.
We hope that that's not the case. We sincerely hope that that's not the case.
So we expect NNPC to address this today so that we can actually bring, down the cost of this product. Because scarcity is out and we are buying at high price. It's actually not logical and it's not favorable to the city.
So fingers are crossed, expectations from NNPC to address this situation. That's a fantastic way to wrap up this segment. Thank you so much, Cecil Kwade, for joining us this morning and for sharing your thoughts. It's been a fantastic conversation. Thank you. Oh, I think we already, Cecil already left the call. But it's been a fantastic one there, I must say. Thank you, Michael, for for calling and for telling us your questions. We'll go on a very quick break now. When we're back, the show continues with our views from the net. To stay with us.
Every year, thousands of people lose their lives to road crashes, which has been attributed majorly to negligence and drink driving. Alcohol increases risks of road crashes, poor judgments and decision-making while driving, lack of coordination and decreased vision, amongst others. Remember, you have a family waiting to welcome you back home. It is better to arrive late than never. Do not drink and drive. This message is brought to you by High Impact Television.
As a child, what is most important to you is love, warmth, acceptance, and security. But as you grow, there is a paradigm shift in the way you approach life. The interest you lose in some things, you pick in other things. Sometimes, the road is smooth. Other times, it is rough. Every step of the way comes with a new hurdle to scale. You win some, you lose some. You laugh hard, you cry hard, but at the end, you look back with a fulfilling smile and say, what a ride. High Impact Television equips you with what you need every step of the way.
Welcome back to the Breakfast Cafe on High Impact Television. This is our segment where we call Views from the Net. We draw the question and we get you to send in your comment and also call into the show to respond to it. And the question for today is, what has been your greatest lesson this year so far? Do well to call us. Let us know what your greatest lesson this year has been. 0812 182 015 first the number to call. I don't know if I should start with Olumide.
Two things. The first one is, this year I have finally understood the slang "God I beg." That's one. Now the second one. Now I've always known this, and I've always known the benefits of saving. But back then, or before now, or before this year, I used to save towards project. But this year, saving has always been for the rainy day. As in, now I understand the meaning.
Is saving you.
Of saving for the rainy day, actual raining day. That is what this year has actually taught me.
It has been raining.
It has been raining.
For me, one of the biggest lessons I've learned this year is to take care of myself. Yeah,
yes.
It might sound very funny, but
yes.
I've learned that above all, I'm first. I matter first before anything else. Yeah, away from the baby girl life, you know, as much as I want to be there for people,
Yes.
I want to sacrifice for people, I need to also consider that I'm first myself. Because if anything happens to me today, guess what? The world continues.
Yes.
So one of the things have happened this year, a lot of things have happened this year, and it has brought me to the conclusion that I am first before anything else. So that is one of the lessons I've learned this year, to take care of my health, my mental health, my physical health, my sanity, my relationships. Just take care of everything that concerns me. That's it for me. But do well to call us. Let us know what your greatest lesson this year has been. 0812-182-0154. Another thing for me this year is I've learned this year is to actually show people that I love them.
Really?
Yeah. I don't want to wait anymore. I don't want to say, no, I'm just going to act like a hard girl and cold. And I actually learned this year that give people their flowers, if I could use that word. Show people that you love them. Now, there are two things. Show them you love them, but don't, how do I put it? Still put yourself first. But let people know that you value them. Let them know that you see them. Because guess what? You might not see them tomorrow. And you beat yourself up that how I wish I'd been more expressive. How I wish I'd told this person this. How I wish, but the person is not there anymore. Right? But let's quickly see Uzziah from Ogun State. Uzziah says, the greatest lesson is trust your instinct, inner mind. It is the greatest strength that will guide you and lead you to success. The reason, whenever I go against my instinct, it doesn't always end well. Trust that inner being in you.
All right, now this one says, to keep adding value to myself. Never see myself satisfied in myself, but to keep looking for a better version of myself every second. Every second we grow, 1,000 journey begins with a step. I want to become Nigeria's president tomorrow. My actions
If I want
today,
to become, I think he said if I want to become.
I beg your pardon, if I want to become Nigeria's president today, my actions today must contribute to the journey. So in all my lessons for the year and life general is to keep moving and never stop at all.
Right. Thank you, Ayomide. Another thing for me that I've learned this year through this, in all of this fuel subsidy removal, hardship here and there, is that sometimes I don't actually need the things that I think I need. I don't actually need them. I just want them. There's a difference between want and need. Yeah. So this year, I have actually understood the difference between a want and a need. The year has helped me get to that. Sometimes the things that I feel, I actually want this thing. They actually need this. I don't actually need it. I just want it. But guess what? Things have happened and it has helped me understand that, you don't actually need this thing. You just want it and it's not a priority. It might seem very little, but this year has actually taught me that, and it's a big lesson. And it has helped me a lot with my finances, because I realized that I'm no longer getting things that I want. I'm only getting things that I need. So that has helped me put things in check. We can say thanks to the economy, by the way. But let's quickly see Dara Simi from Lagos. Dara Simi says, greatest lesson I've learned this year is the importance of adaptability. Life throws unexpected challenges our way, and being flexible allows us to navigate those changes with resilience. Embracing uncertainty can lead to new opportunities and personal growth. Thank you, Dara Simi. Fantastic one there.
All right, this next one says, I've learnt the value of self-compassion. Now, in a world that often emphasizes achievement, I realize that being kind to myself during tough times is essential for mental health. Understanding that it's okay to struggle has allowed me to approach challenges with a more balanced mindset. Thompson from Surulere.
That's a good one. Understanding that it's okay to struggle. You're not perfect. You know, you can make mistakes.
Definitely. We all have. Nigeria has.
This year, I've allowed myself to actually just not do anything. There were days where so before, if I'm just at home not doing anything, I always feel like, look at you, you're just so lazy, in quote, you know. But this year, I've allowed myself, there were times where I did not feel like doing anything, and I just stayed like that, like, you know what, nah, I'm not stressing myself. I'm just going to be here, probably just chill without beating myself up or feeling like I'm doing something wrong. Nah, nothing like that anymore. Also, Dre from Abuja says, the most significant lesson I've encountered this year is the importance of community. After experiencing a personal crisis, I found immense support from friends and family. Now, this reinforced the idea that we are stronger together and that vulnerability can foster deeper connections. You cannot overemphasize the importance of a community, a group, support from family or friends. Until you go through a phase or a challenge alone and nobody's there with you, you might not understand the value of that friend that just checks in, or that colleague that just teases you and says, are you okay? What is even wrong with you? Talk to me. Or that family member that is always disturbing you. I say, you're disturbing me too much. Until we actually go through certain phases, we might not understand the importance of those people in our lives.
Yeah. I think this year has also taught me one thing, that you should be careful the things you criticize, because sometimes you might end up doing those certain things that you've criticized in the past.
I've learned this even before this year, that I don't judge what I've not I don't judge situations, or I don't judge people in situations that I've not found myself in. Because guess what? You might do worse than that person if you find yourself. It has happened to me before. Like, this is real life. I saw a situation happen and I was like, oh no, this was many years back. How can you even do this? How would you even? And guess what? Fast forward to, it wasn't even up to a year. I found myself in that situation and I did worse than what that person did. And since that time, it made me understand that until you are found in that situation, you don't have a right to speak. Like, you cannot judge it, you cannot criticize. Who made you judge in the first place? You cannot criticize. You cannot say, if I were the one, if you were the one, you would do worse. Or maybe the same thing. So that I've learned a long time ago, and it has been helping me. So sometimes when I hear some things, people say, this thing happened, I just like, I just hope that the person is fine. I hope the person, because I can't say, oh, why did you do this? You are this. What if I'm the one in that situation? Is that how I will handle it?
Exactly.
And then you also need to not, as much as you need to trust yourself, you also need to understand that you might not trust yourself. What do I mean? No. Everybody says, oh, I trust myself. I trust myself. I cannot do this thing. I cannot do that. I cannot say this. I cannot say that. But sometimes, even we that we trust ourselves, we disappoint ourselves. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm saying that sometimes don't take too much pride in yourself, because you might find yourself in that situation that you're saying you can never find yourself in. I
think that's what makes us human. Now, this next one is Queen from Great Yabatek. This year has taught me about the power of gratitude. I started a daily gratitude journal, which shifted my focus from what I lack to what I have. Now, this practice has cultivated a more positive outlook and helped me appreciate the small joys in life, even during difficult times.
Nice.
Queen from Great Jabatek, thank you very much.
Talking about gratitude, I can't do this without stating that one of the things that I've learned this year, there's been a lot of things actually. One of the strong things is that I can't do this year, or I can't do life by my own. You see those little, you wake up in the morning, whatever religious faith you belong to, you just say a word of prayer and just, you know, commit everything into your Creator's hand. You find out that sometimes they seem very minute.
Yes.
But they actually help. And I learned it in very funny ways this year, that even in the most tiniest detail, there's always help coming, in quote. Like I said, based on whatever religion you practice or what your beliefs are, we have to, this year has taught me to draw closer. Because you will need it at every step of the way. There are times you'll be confused, there are times you'll be like, even as basic as, okay, what should I put on? Or when should I step out? And you just find out that there are times where I've been so reluctant to step out, and I just get that nudge, you know what, just step out now. And I step out at that point, and I just get to meet certain things that I probably would have not met if I'd stepped out like 5 minutes earlier or 5 minutes later. What am I trying to say? This year has taught me to actually embrace my Creator more. Like,
that's why I said God, I beg.
That relationship, you cannot do this year.
But I would like to ask, is it true that they say that if you are staying outside the country, probably US or United States and all that, that people often are less religious than when they are in Nigeria? That it has to do with more of the economic hardship. I mean, if the government solves all your problems, half of your prayers have been answered. Do you think that's true?
I don't have a perfect answer for you, but I know that I will say Nigeria, but Africans are very religious. That's why we hear our leaders say, pray for things to get better. Yes. Or you hear people say, keep praying so that the economy can be good or the country can. It's beyond that. Africans are religious people. These people in other climes, I wouldn't say they are not religious. They have the religions that they practice. But you know, sometimes when you are praying for something, how do I put it? You don't those other climes already have certain benefit that they do not have to be praying anxiously. No, it's not like they don't pray. They don't have to keep praying anxiously for it. But over here, we're praying for them if it works for you. Right, but let's quickly take Emmanuel from Port Harcourt. Emmanuel says financial management is a must-learn skill for everyone, especially when it comes to loaning out money.
All right, this is Bolaji. Bolaji says, I've learned